Chapter 2. Spain the Adversary. The adversary of the new era was embodied in the totalitarian state of the Spanish Habsburgs and the Spanish Church. It was true and a known fact that the sun never set on their empire. The influx of gold from the American colonies deceived them about the importance of Spanish industry and agriculture, and their infantry, the best in the world, led them to underestimate the strength of movements that represented tendencies foreign to them. Of all the nations of Europe, the population of the Iberian Peninsula was the most mixed. The Roman military immigration was spread upon a basic stratum of the original Iberian race, the remnants of which are now known as the Basques. After Spain, in the Punic Wars, had been wrested from the Phoenicians, who had incorporated it for 1,000 years into the great Semitic culture of the Mediterranean basin. The Romans were succeeded by a thin layer of Visigothic and Vandal nobility, whose power broke down before the onrush of Arabs and Moors, who, from the very beginning, were strongly intermingled with Jews, since on their way from Arabia they had absorbed numerous Jewish tribes of North Africa. For centuries, the culture of the Spanish peninsula now remained Arabic Jewish, therefore again Semitic, which culture ranked highest in the Europe of that time in the pursuit of the sciences, the fine arts, the renaissance of ancient Greek philosophy, in medicine and engineering, as well as in commerce and financial matters. Their tolerance in matters of faith was exemplary, and survived to the last in those parts of the country which had remained Moorish. But in the wake of the general reversal of Islamism, best known through the Crusades, the supremacy of the Christian kingdoms of the northwestern part of the peninsula spread again to its southernmost point, and the more Catholic Europe became, the more intolerant it did it grow. Since the conquering knighthood had to find a means to disown or expatriate those who, though Jews or Arabs by birth, had embraced Catholicism, they invented the principle of racial purity, and its tool, the tribunal of the Holy Inquisition. With its help, they succeeded in 100 years' fight of the powerful against the downtrodden, and expelled the Jews, Moors, and Neo-Christians, Marranos, from their Spanish homeland. With them, spiritual freedom, the will to think, industrial enterprise, arts and scientists left the land, which from now on was abandoned to the economic exploitation of hundreds of thousands of Germans and Italians. This took place towards the end of the 15th century, while the ancient Byzantine Christian realm went over to the Turks, and Christopher Columbus, financed and accompanied by Jews, perhaps himself of Jewish descent, compare Blasco Ibáñez, undertook his great hazardous enterprise in search of the western sea route to India, whereby he accidentally discovered America. Thousands of sorrowful and grief-stricken Jewish families left the Iberian Peninsula, and soon all the large European ports, Leghorn, Salamanca, Hamburg, and Amsterdam, began to flourish. The newcomers everywhere supported an anti-Spanish front, especially in formerly Spanish countries. According to their background, however, they remained Spanish Jewish aristocrats and Borghese, Borghese. Their style of thinking was determined by the same zeal for absolute orthodoxy that had been the mark of the Catholic Church in Spain. They feared and hated doubt, skepticism, and heresy as much as their former Christian countrymen. The spirit of freedom, which was blowing through Europe, threatened their community with dissolution. And as they had suffered terrible persecutions for over 3 generations because of their origin, that community seemed to them the bearers of the Jewish faith and the messianic promise to Israel, to have a value second to nothing. Thus they continued the fight which had been begun in Spain against critical intelligence and unbiased investigation, and inheritance from freer and more fortunate times. The inheritance from freer and more fortunate times. One of the families thus transplanted from Portugal and Spain to Amsterdam, bearing the germ of scientific thinking in its blood, was the family of de Spinoza, or de Spinoza. There had been cardinals and soldiers among its ancestors.